This is Global Currency Insight, and today we're diving into one of the most talked about stories in the world of alternative investing. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has recently made a statement has set off a wave of excitement and speculation among those who follow exotic currencies. His comments touched directly on the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong, two currencies that have long been the subject of debate, hope, and sometimes controversy. The idea that Iraq could potentially step into the global forex market for normal day trading in 2025 is capturing attention everywhere. For many who've been holding onto these banknotes for years, this feels like the moment they have been waiting for. But before anyone jumps to conclusions, there's a lot to unpack. Trump's words have certainly added fuel to the conversation, but the real story may be far more complicated than it first appears. When Trump spoke about the potential of the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong, he wasn't merely talking about short-term changes in exchange rates. His suggestion pointed toward a bigger possibility: Iraq positioning itself to finally join the global currency exchange system in a way that would allow its dinar to be traded openly on major forex platforms. This is significant because, at the moment, the Iraqi dinar is not freely traded like the dollar, euro, or yen. Most transactions involving the dinar happen through specialized dealers, niche brokers, or informal exchange services. The Vietnamese Dong is more accessible and already appears in forex markets, but even it faces restrictions that limit how and where it can be traded. Trump's comments highlighted a potential shift that could bring both currencies closer to mainstream visibility. To understand why this matters so much, let's take a closer look at the Iraqi dinar's current situation. Right now, if you hold dinar banknotes, your ability to use or exchange them is limited. Most people rely on dealers who specialize in less common currencies, and that can make transactions slow, expensive, and sometimes frustrating. Exchange rates can vary widely depending on where you go, and the gap between what you pay to buy dinar and what you get when you sell it back is often quite large. For holders of the currency, this lack of liquidity and transparency has been one of the biggest challenges. If Iraq were to officially integrate its dinar into the global forex network, the process of buying and selling could look very different. Prices would be set in real time across trading platforms, competition would reduce the spreads, and liquidity would increase dramatically. However, while that sounds like a breakthrough for currency holders, the path toward making it a reality is not simple. Iraq would need to meet several important conditions before its currency could be fully integrated into international markets. Political stability is one of the most important factors, and Iraq has had a complicated history in this area. Frequent government changes, ongoing security issues, and regional conflicts have all made long-term planning difficult. On top of that, the country's central bank would need to adopt monetary policies that inspire confidence both at home and abroad. This includes building up foreign reserves, modernizing financial systems, and adhering to global banking standards. None of these steps are impossible, but they take time and require steady leadership. Political stability, in particular, remains Iraq's greatest challenge. The country has dealt with years of internal division and external pressure, which often disrupts efforts at economic reform. International investors look closely at how secure a nation's political system is before committing to major financial participation. That said, there have been signs of progress. Iraq has been working to repair international relationships, especially with trade partners, and oil revenues have provided a more stable source of government income. Infrastructure projects are ongoing, and there is growing attention toward modernizing financial regulations. These developments give Iraq a stronger platform than it has had in the past, but whether they are enough to allow for full forex integration is still an open question. The central bank's role in this transformation cannot be overstated. In recent years, Iraq's central bank has been trying to establish more predictable exchange rates and strengthen foreign reserves. These reserves, built primarily through oil sales, provide a cushion against currency shocks and help stabilize the value of the dinar. At the same time, new digital payment systems and updated banking regulations are being introduced to align more closely with international standards. These steps are important milestones, but they are gradual and often slower than investors would like. Still, they show that Iraq is moving in a direction that could eventually support broader Forex participation. For people who already hold dinar banknotes, Trump's statement feels like a moment of validation, but it's important to look at the underlying economics. A currency's value is not determined by political announcements or sudden changes in accessibility. Instead, it is shaped by fundamentals such as economic growth, inflation control, and long-term stability. Iraq's economy, though improving in some areas, still faces heavy challenges. The country relies heavily on oil exports, making it vulnerable to global price swings. Inflation has been difficult to manage consistently, and unemployment remains high compared to other developing economies. These factors suggest that even if the dinar becomes freely traded, any change in its value will likely be slow and tied directly to the country's overall economic performance rather than sudden leaps. The story of the Vietnamese Dong is somewhat different. Vietnam's economy has grown steadily over the past 2 decades, with the country establishing itself as a major hub for manufacturing and exports. Foreign investment has been climbing, and the Dong already appears in Forex markets, although restrictions limit how freely it moves. Vietnam's government has gradually relaxed currency controls, opening the door for more participation while still carefully monitoring the flow of money. This cautious approach has helped maintain stability, but it also means the Dong is unlikely to experience sudden or dramatic shifts in value. For traders and investors, the Dong represents a more gradual story of integration compared to the uncertainties surrounding the dinar. If we look closer at what regular Forex trading actually involves, the picture becomes clearer. When a currency is part of the international Forex system, banks, institutions, and traders around the world can buy and sell it at any time. Exchange rates move constantly, influenced by supply, demand, political developments, and economic data. This creates both opportunities and risks. On one hand, increased liquidity makes it easier to buy and sell at transparent rates. On the other hand, open trading exposes the currency to sudden swings in value if bad news hits. For individual holders of dinar or dong banknotes, this volatility could feel like both a blessing and a curse. Trump's comments have brought new energy to the conversation, but it's important to recognize the difference between political statements and actual policy changes. Even if Iraq intends to move toward open Forex trading, the timeline could be longer than expected. Global financial systems move cautiously, and the steps needed to meet international standards cannot be rushed without consequences. For individuals who currently hold these currencies, the reality is that nothing has changed overnight. The future remains tied to gradual reforms, economic developments, and international cooperation. If Iraq does eventually succeed in joining Forex markets, the implications could be significant beyond just currency trading. Greater access to international markets could encourage more foreign investment, support local businesses with better banking services, and give Iraqi citizens easier access to global financial tools. This kind of integration would accelerate Iraq's connection to the wider global economy. But at the same time, the transition could be rocky. Exchange rates might fluctuate more sharply, new regulations could reshape how transactions are handled, and tax rules might adjust in response to international standards. These shifts could create as many challenges as opportunities, particularly in the early stages. Looking at Vietnam's example offers some lessons for Iraq, By slowly opening its markets while maintaining certain controls, Vietnam has managed to attract foreign investment without losing too much stability. Its manufacturing exports bring in steady foreign currency, helping support the dong's value. At the same time, the government still limits capital movement to reduce the risk of sudden outflows. The result is a currency that participates in global markets but under watchful management. Iraq may need to adopt a similarly cautious approach if it hopes to avoid the pitfalls of volatility during a transition to full forex participation. The broader point is that currency markets are not driven by bold statements alone. While influential figures like Donald Trump can spark conversations and highlight possibilities, actual changes depend on deeper economic conditions and policy decisions. Iraq still faces major obstacles in achieving political stability, reducing dependency on oil, and modernizing its financial sector. Vietnam's dong is already further along, but still subject to significant government oversight. Both cases illustrate the complexities of moving from restricted trading environments to full integration in the world's largest financial market. For those following these developments, it is crucial to separate excitement from reality. Currencies rise or fall based on fundamentals, not speculation alone. Iraq may very well take steps toward greater global participation, and Vietnam may continue to loosen its controls. But these processes take time, and their outcomes are shaped by countless factors, ranging from international demand to domestic policy. As the story develops, the key will be watching how these countries handle the challenges of reform and whether they can build the trust needed to attract consistent global interest. And that brings us back to Trump's original remarks. His comments have shined a spotlight on currencies that often stay outside mainstream discussion, reminding everyone that the global financial system is always evolving. But while his words carry influence, they should be seen as part of the ongoing debate rather than a guarantee of immediate change. The future of the dinar and the dong will depend less on political speeches and more on the long, detailed process of economic and institutional development. So, what do you think about these unfolding developments? Are the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong truly on the path to wider acceptance in the forex world, or is this another moment of speculation that might fade with time? The only certainty is that the coming years will reveal how much progress Iraq and Vietnam can make toward full global integration, and whether the hopes of many currency holders will align with the realities of economic reform.